Introduction. Today, we're going to talk about genetic information. DNA contains the building blocks of life. Our DNA is inherited from our parents and contains thousands of genes carrying information that affects how our bodies develop. This information is now being analyzed by researchers and clinicians to understand and predict diseases, drug reactions, health outcomes, and other aspects of well-being. Some researchers are also interested in how genes interact with our environment to affect other aspects of our body, such as physical appearance, body type, brain functions, and numerous other traits. And increasingly, researchers are interested in studying the whole genome, gathering an immense amount of data about every single gene in our DNA to further explore more precisely how genes affect our health and functioning. This explosion of information raises unique social and ethical questions which we will be discussing in depth today. Case 1 for discussion. Mr. A is a healthy 24-year-old man who has volunteered to participate in an analysis of his whole genome. The aim of the study is to see if any genes are linked to a group of health indicators including blood pressure, cholesterol, and weight. However, as researchers are analyzing Mr. A's genome, they notice something surprising. He has a rare genetic variant that current research suggests gives him a double likelihood of developing prostate cancer at some point in his lifetime than the general population, 30% compared to 15%. This is what is sometimes called an incidental finding, a finding not related to a test's initial purpose, but nevertheless potentially relevant to the subject. The study team debates whether to report the finding. On one hand, the information may prompt Mr. A to undertake a screening for prostate cancer earlier. Early detection of such cancers significantly improves the likelihood of such treatment. On the other hand, the finding would be a complete surprise to Mr. A. It may induce anxiety and prompt unwarranted early screening with a high risk of a false positive, a seeming detection of cancer that turns out to be completely harmless. What should researchers do? Case 2 for a discussion. Mrs. B is a 45-year-old woman with 2 children, a 15-year-old girl and a 22-year-old boy. Mrs. B is undergoing treatment for early-stage breast cancer. As part of her treatment, she took a genetic test that revealed a variant associated with greater likelihood of developing breast cancer. The findings were taken into account in her treatment, and in addition mean that the likelihood to develop breast cancer could have been passed on to her children. Her results are logged in her medical record. 2 years later, a researcher aims to study the effects of genes on treatment outcomes. The researcher requests access to excerpts from thousands of medical records, including Mrs. B's, that contain information on both patients' genes and treatment outcomes. The information would not include the patient's names, addresses, or IC numbers. However, some studies suggest an enterprising individual could use the information given, which includes treatment dates, birth dates, and other pieces from the record, combined with public records to obtain the identities of the patients, along with their genetic results. Should the researcher be allowed access to the results for his study? Why or why not?